Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here. We're talking Djinn Releaser of Rituals in this video, and we're asking the question if this should be considered a floodgate card and therefore be under the same scrutiny as other prominent and hated floodgate cards. Now, just for reference, I personally like to distinguish floodgate cards from floodgate monsters, mainly because a lot of the good floodgate monsters like Spell Canceller, Vanity's Fiend, Majesty's Fiend, they can require tributes. A lot of them are like level 5 and 6, so there are certain situations and special circumstances where they can end up being dead in your hands, while floodgate cards, the spell and traps like Soul Drain, Skill Drain, Vanity's Emptiness, they can pretty much be played on the field at will under any circumstance. So I think we all know what the Djinn does right now. Usually when it's used in conjunction with Colossalus, you make a situation where you can special summon as much as you want while your opponent just can't. And Colossus does have that 2300 defense, so it's really hard to kill without using the special summon. I mean, there's only half a dozen, well, you know what, check that. There's probably only about 4 or 5, monsters that commonly will see play in main decks right now that can just immediately answer it, that don't require special summons. You have like Kamo 1 and, Satellite Regal, but for the most part, the options are very limited. And the thing that I find interesting is if you look at some of the cards that we're starting to play, they don't even have a lot of synergy with the decks that we're using, and yet we're using them kind of just to out this one move, the Genlock. Like if you look at Necros, they play Book of Eclipse. Sometimes they'll play even 2 copies of it, and it is kind of cool when you can reuse a Manju or a Sanju, but for the most part, like, it doesn't actually make any of the Necros plays better. Like, Necros are mainly using this card as just a quick out to the Genlock, and it didn't really dawn on me how prominent this play was. Like, I've had it used against me a couple of times for Satellar Knights. It's really not that big of a deal because, they play battle traps and field clearers and stuff like that. But then I watched the ARG finals today. It was ARG Hartford, Connecticut, and literally Game 1 in 3, it was just one guy throwing the Genlock on board turn 1, and then for the rest of the next 5 or 6 turns, it was just the other guy getting Valkyris and just waiting to die, essentially. In Game 2, he ended up getting a game loss, so they didn't even play that. But it was kind of just the epitome of anti-hype. Like, I know if Konami was actually watching this stream, even though it's not one of their events, they were probably pulling their hair out because they were just like, oh my goodness, this is 100% exactly what we didn't want to see, because this is damn near bordering on solitaire. And I know that obviously I could say this, and I could say this and use this same exact logic to things like Vanity's Emptiness or Skill Drain, but I think the interesting and unique thing about Djinn Releaser of Rituals is the fact that it doesn't even actually need to be on the field for its presence and its effect to actually be felt. And this is what kind of makes it one of a kind. Like, don't get me wrong, we have similar cards. Yangzing Bixie comes to mind. It gives a synchro monster the ability to be unaffected by traps. But if Yangzing Bixie said something like, as long as the synchro monster is face up, your opponent can't even activate traps, I'd be like, whoa there, that card is it's probably a little too powerful. And then it would start kind of being in like the danger zone where we might actually have to do something about that card. So I think that Djinn Releaser of Rituals actually reminds me a lot of Wind Up Hunter, in the sense that it's a card that by itself does pretty much like less than nothing, but if you combine it with the right couple of cards, it literally creates a format defining loop or lock. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now out of the Genlock. So you look at the OCG, and after Wind Up's kind of dominated, then Wind Up Hunter actually got banned. I think that's honestly what they should have done in the TCG too. So I wouldn't be shocked in the least if Djinn Releaser of Rituals actually end up getting banned. Like, if it just went from 3 to 0 in the span of like 2 months, it wouldn't even be that surprising, because I think it's justifiable. I mean, the fact that it never actually has to hit the field to lock a player out of the entire game, I mean, that's something that no other floodgate or even floodgate like card can really say right now, at least not ones that people actually play. Maybe there's some obscure shit that I'm not thinking about in the TCG, but let me know what you guys think. I think that this card is almost identical to Wind Up Hunter. It does nothing by itself, but when you add it with a couple of cards and the combos aren't really that hard to do, you have a format defining play that just, it just pretty much auto wins you the game. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching as always. Subscribing makes life happy.